Rise and Shine Rwanda, it's Friday, the 2nd of October. Welcome to this week's weekly review show where we take you back to the best of the week here on Rise and Shine Rwanda. It's just gone 7 o'clock in the morning. My name is Regis Isheja, and over the next hour we'll bring you all the review of this week's top stories, analysis, debate, and insights into the stories making headlines here in Rwanda and around the world. Now, the Rise and Shine crew have throughout the week been diligently gathering and preparing everything you need to know about what's happening here in Rwanda and around the world. Well, it's been a busy week for us here at the Rise and Shine headquarters. One of the most interesting stories that I reported on this week was Rwanda Broadcasting Agency's conference. RBA hosted a conference putting radio, television, and online content in the spotlight this week in Kigali. The third Africa and Digitalization Conference and Public Media Alliance Regional Meeting for Africa will deliberate on the position of the continent globally in digital migration of broadcasters, development in ICT that have an impact on broadcasting, and how Africans can use the opportunity to populate the television screens with their own stories. Let's take a look back.
Rwanda Broadcasting Agency (RBA) wants to be the country's leading source of news and information, providing programs and quality which will entertain as well as inform a nation. The Southern Africa Broadcasting Association and the Public Media Alliance will lead the discussions on the 30th of September and the 1st of October at Serena Hotel. Heavyweights in the content provision space such as Discop Africa and Africa 24 Media will form part of this conference that will be chaired by moderators such as Professor Murej Makocheng from Multimedia University of Kenya and Levio Bonyo from Daystar. Over 150 CEOs in media from Southern and Eastern Africa and the world will attend the meeting.
We had the job of live streaming that event. We started off modeling a studio, an artist.
Other speakers include Salim Amin, founder and chairperson of the Mohammed Amin Foundation, Eric Chinje, former World Bank spokesperson for Africa, and Rachel Jones, Knight Health Journalism Fellow and founder of Kenya Alliance of Health and Science Reports. The conference called Third Africa and Digitalization Conference and Public Media Alliance Regional Meeting for Africa will deliberate on the position of Africa globally in digital migration of broadcasters, development in ICT that have an impact on broadcasting, and how Africans can use the opportunity to populate the television screens with their own stories. Regis Isheja, Rise and Shine Rwanda.
And joining me in studio now is Ellen Dantago, Secretary General of SABA. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Your first time and hopefully the first of many. Now tell us about this upcoming conference. I mean, I'm upbeat about what's going to be taking place this week. I feel like we haven't addressed digital media enough on the continent. What do you hope to get from the conference?
Number one, we should say it's great. It's such an honor to be with you this morning and just to talk about this conference. Just mainly because of what you just said. We haven't spoken enough about it. I think as broadcasters, we've been going through the motions and we've been going through the changes. But we haven't really taken a step back to say what exactly is it that we need to be able to achieve after we've gone through these changes. And one of the things that is important for us as the Southern Africa Broadcasting Association, and currently because we're in East Africa, so it's a South meets East meeting, is to be able to take that moment to just reflect on how far broadcasters have actually come in terms of digital migration, but to also look at the backdrop of where this has come from, which is basically the area of ICTs and the development of ICTs in our countries. I think it's very important, Regis, to always take note and to recognize that our nations have identified the sector of ICTs as a growth point, and that if you can develop that sector, you'll be able to develop economies, and if you can develop economies, you'll be able to develop your people. So as broadcasters, that has actually been the part that has brought us to digital migration, because we have to get off that spectrum so that they're able to use that band for mobile broadcast development. So it's interesting that we should pay attention to what the nations or what the governments are doing, and in that space champion the conversations about development for our nations as well.
Now, I've never been to Windhoek. You're from Namibia. You can tell us a little bit about what the media scene is like over there. I mean, over here we have a public broadcaster, and then we have a lot of private channels. How does it work in Namibia?
Well, in Namibia, we also have a private broadcaster, and then we have not many. We've only had one competition in sense of a commercial broadcaster for television. But then we have a lot of commercial radio stations, and then you also have the public service broadcaster for the radio channels. So what we have seen is that in terms of migration and in terms of the growth of the media, it has been the public broadcasters that have taken the lead, and the others have basically followed what public broadcasters have been doing. But right now in Namibia, it's a very exciting time, because you know that Namibia is one of the 5 countries in SADC that has actually migrated, and they form part of only about 3 that have done it very successfully. In fact, Namibia has been used by the Southern Africa Development Community as a case study to be able to look for best practices, what the other countries are able to follow in terms of that process. And what was found as most important areas was, you know, if you have a good communication between you and your government, and when you have stable leadership in terms of either your permanent secretaries or those that are in the ministries of ICT or broadcasting to do this process with you. Plus the areas of public awareness, because you're not really digital unless your people are buying the set-top box and they have migrated. Then only you become digital. So in terms of those areas, it has been very significant that Namibia has been able to take a lead, and just to be able to bring about this and to create such an excitement about it that we are prepared to share it with everyone.
Now, the juncture between media and ICT. We're in a country here where ICT is loaded all over the world. I mean, when it comes to rankings and all these polls, we usually do great. The ministry in itself is doing a lot of great work, but the media is still lagging a little bit behind. Us working in the broadcasting field, we feel it. We know that there's still, a long way to go. What has been your experience in Rwanda from what you've been able to see? When it comes to what we do on television, what radio sounds like, our presence digitally, what do you feel like we're still lacking?
The number one thing I will have to say is you must negotiate that RBA's channel, your TV channel, plays in hotels. We don't have that in the hotel where we're staying, and we're a little bit frustrated about that, because we feel the public broadcasters, your channel should be on whatever bouquet or whatever service that they offer, that it should be on there. But having said that, the reason why we chose Rwanda to be here is because of your development in ICTs. We have quite a lot to learn from you in terms of that space. And Rwanda is doing very well. I mean, you have so many e-services, you have e-banking, you have e-commerce, you even have your safety and security on ICTs. And that is a great thing. And that's like, the kind of space that you want ICTs to work in. They can't work independently. They have to work for the benefit of the people. And I just had a conversation with the chief of the police in terms of media. And he was informing me that they even have Twitter, and they are able to communicate with the public.
They communicate a lot through Twitter. It's
so that is what ICTs are about. And we see the involvement of Rwanda and the lead that your president has taken, that they mention him as part of the giants in like Malaysia and Singapore, that he's running with them in that sense, and that countries like Malawi actually look to Rwanda to assist them. So I think that's a major achievement, and that is what excites us so much, because in this conversation as media and as broadcasters, we can't leave the conversation of ICTs behind, because the space that we have moved into of broadcasting is where you've seen information dissemination and technology has been married. So it would be very ignorant of us not to stay abreast of what is happening in terms of innovation and technology, because that is the space where we're going to operate mostly. Because once you've become digital, I mean, what's going to stop you?
Now, there's a little thing coming up, I'm pretty sure you've heard of it, called Transform Africa. It's about 2 to 3 weeks after your own conference. This will have a lot of, tech giants from all over the world, from Africa. When I was receiving the press release from you, it said you're expecting about 150 CEOs from all over the world. How do you make that happen, and why do they buy into this concept?
Well, number one thing that you need to know about the Southern Africa Broadcasting Association, it is a platform of growth for broadcasters. So when SABA does something, if you're into broadcasting or you're into media, you want to be there because of the conversations that we lead. The conversations are very important to us because we look at ourselves as an organization that leads. And if you're going to lead, you need to be able to address, you need to be able to dance to the music of the future, right, while looking at the industry, what is happening, and saying, okay, that should be the next mark of where we need to be. So for us, that is important. So when people look at our agendas and what we're going to offer, they know exactly. I mean, currently, people want to talk about digital migration. They want to talk about what's happening in terms of what the future holds for broadcasting. They want to talk about what's happening with our space of content and how we're going to fill it, and how important the conversation is to have about Africa telling their own stories. And it is happening already. But they really just want to delve into it and say, are we making use of all the resources we have? Are we making use of all the skills we have? Are we really delving into this type of stories that we want to put on our television screens? The type of, because content is just like food to people. Right. So they want to look at the diet that they offer. Is it really a sustainable diet? And is it a good diet that we're giving the people? And an important aspect to cover in that space is, are we doing stuff and putting stuff on TV that really inspires our youth to do great things? I think that Africa is a great continent, and that people from Africa are doing great things even abroad, and that we need to be able to feed that type of content to people just to build confidence, and especially our generation. I think we need that because we weren't part of the liberation generation, if you call it like that, and they had passion, they had steam because they were working on something. But we are again coming on the backdrop of something else, and we also need to champion certain things. So I think this thing of ICTs and development and what young people can do in terms of innovation, that's very important because it's our time. So that's the space that we're going to live in. So, and then broadcasters also want to know how the business model is changing. And the business model is changing every day.
A lot, right.
And that comes at the backdrop of everything, because you can't continue to be the same if you see ICTs have developed and now we have migrated to digital broadcasting. And then you find yourself that you even have to tell your own story because you have so many channels that you can tell your own stories. You have to change. So that's why they come. But second important thing is, we are partnering with the biggest broadcasting association in the world, which is the former Commonwealth Broadcasting Association, the CBA, and which RBA is a member of, yes. And our partnership with the Public Media Alliance, because now they call the Public Media Alliance, they also made the change from Commonwealth Broadcasting to public media. Why? Because there's convergence taking place in media. And it's no longer those lines of division in terms of radio and television. It's no longer there because it's become online. That's what we're working with right now. So in terms of that, we're partnering with them, and it's been an exciting journey because our former president of the Southern Africa Broadcasting Association used to be the vice president on the CVA. And then RBA is part of that as well. Right. And it just creates such a great synergy because it's like friends working together to address necessary topics that need to be handled. So they will be here. I think Sally Ann arrives tonight. Sally Ann arrived yesterday. So she will be here, and between us, we will just try and set up this conversation that is like a family coming together and just looking at what is it that we need to do for the future.
Well, for those who want to subscribe and be part of the conference, what should they do? Could you tell them what they should be doing right now, since we have a few days left?
Well, currently you should go to your laptops, palm tops, iPads, everything that we have, mobile devices, and then you visit our website at www.sabagm2015.org, and you will be able to get a welcoming note to the conference. You'll be able to look at our program. You'll be able to go to a registration page where you just have to type in a few details. It's not a lot. We just want to know your name, what organization you represent, and then if you're from outside of the country where you're going to stay, just we're able to mobilize everybody to have safety and just that we know where people are.
Right.
And then number one, that's what you can do. Secondly, you can call RBA and talk to Domina. She's been the key person from the Rwanda Broadcasting Agency, and she will be able to give you information. If you are in the space of ministries and businesses, your key person will be the DG of RBA, Arthur. He's open. He knows what's happening in terms of the conference. And we will be at the Serena Hotel. I mean, who doesn't want to go to the Serena Hotel?
Right, I do.
And there is no fee to pay. So it's a free conference. You just bring yourself and the capacity that you represent and come and learn. And one thing I must add, Regis, you know, Saba believes in training the next generation. Right. So we've created a space where we've said we always need to include academicians, people that are training the new leaders that will come into broadcasting, but also the students that are being trained to be able to go to the next frontier in terms of broadcasting, because we will pass away. I hope not soon, though. But we'll get there. Right. You know, so we've basically said that we want to include trainers and trainees into the space where professionals are already operating to get into the conversation of what is being said now about the industry. So that when the students are developing, they already have a mind frame of where things really are at. And where trainers also get the opportunity to adapt, should they need to adapt their curricula. So we have a group of 15 producers coming from all the SADC countries that basically need to move with us over the next 2 to 3 years, just to be able to be trained and get the mind frame and understand what the current leaders are saying, so that by the time that they are able to get into leadership, they know exactly where to jump in.
Well, Ellen, let me tell you something. It's Monday morning. You got me pumped. I can't wait for tomorrow. This starts tomorrow. I'm excited. Thank you so much for coming, to Rise and Shine Rwanda, for being on the couch and telling us about the upcoming conference. I cannot wait to take part in this.
It's been a pleasure for us to come and to join you, Regis, and we're really looking forward. Anybody can come.
All right, Ellen. Well, you're watching Rise and Shine Rwanda. Do not go anywhere. We'll be right back after the break.
It's unbelievable, but what you see is what you pay.
All right, that is really interesting stuff. All right, now on to another story that really caught our attention this week. This was the Sweden at Rwanda story, a two-day workshop bringing together players from the Rwandan and the Swedish creative industry that took place in Kigali this past week. The forum created interaction opportunities for players in the creative industry from the two countries with an overall aim to increase the sector's role in national development. It follows up on a benchmarking trip by a 14-member delegation from Rwanda to Sweden in June. It comes at a time when Rwanda is seeking avenues to create more employment opportunities and non-traditional ways of generating gross domestic product. Let's take a look back. Studio now is Maria Hackinson, chargée d'affaires at the Embassy of Sweden here in Rwanda. And then we also have Teddy Goitom from Stockholm Film Festival. Stocktown Films, and Matthew Rugamba from House of Tayo, a frequent guest here on the show. You're part of the show by now. you might as well just,
take your seat now.
And move here, absolutely. So guys, it was great. I got the chance to actually be part of Sweden at Rwanda. It was an amazing thing. The workshop in itself was very inspiring. Now, first of all, Maria, as a country that's, friends with Rwanda, when doing this, because we know, Rwandans from the creative sector also got to go to Stockholm, including Matthew Rugamba.
Yes.
What is Sweden getting from this? I mean, what's in it for Sweden?
Yes, well, firstly, I think from the starting point from the embassy and from the Swedish Institute in Stockholm is that we want to build new relationships with Rwanda. We want to build new networks We've been in Rwanda for quite many years now with our development cooperation, but we know also that the day will come quite soon when the aid from Sweden is not needed in Rwanda, and we need other ways of collaborating. So this is a way of looking already today to the situation beyond aid, and we thought that creative industry is something where we have expertise and maybe a tradition where we have seen already that the creative economy can be important, and we saw lots of potential in Rwanda with lots of talented creative people I've met during my years here, and also a field where it's a meeting on equal basis. I'm sure as much as we could share our experience, we also got inspired of what's happening here. It's a new, vibrant sector.
Now, there's a lot going on for Stocktown Films. When you come here and you get to meet other young men and young women from the Rwandan creative sector, and you see how they're working. I mean, it's not just Matthew. You get to interact with others and mingle with them. What did you see? What got you hopeful about the creative sector here in Rwanda, and what can Stocktown Film benefit from the creative sector here?
I mean, we're always at Stocktown Films interested in hearing new stories and finding new creatives. The whole project that we worked on with Afripedia was about finding stories from the creative scene from major cities. So it's fantastic to meet Rwandan creatives, and I mean, we would hope to stay longer, to go more deeper. Now we've had more of a one-to-one meetings, and next time hopefully we can. For our part, we would love to come back and film stories, and because I think we identify ourselves with creativity, and we know that one story here can inspire someone else somewhere else, and we can find role models. So, yeah.
This in itself is already feeling like another workshop.
Yeah.
Matthew,
Yes.
we've met socially after you came back from Stockholm, but
Yes.
when you went there,
Yes.
I saw pictures here and there, but I never really got the full experience, what you gain from being there, being with other members of the creative sector here in Rwanda, and getting to see how it works in Stockholm, in Sweden, and seeing where they are right now and where we wish to be at a certain point. What are you getting from them coming here now, you guys being the host, this time around and showing your stuff?
I mean, it was eye-opening going to Stockholm. We got to see not only the creative industry, but how creativity permeates through other sectors, education, health, so many different ways. And that's important for us in Rwanda because we need to show that creativity is not just performing arts, it's not just fashion, it does a lot more. And it will work its way into architecture, into technology. It's really important. Now, the great thing about having people coming, the team from Stockholm coming here, is that we got to continue the discussion and come up with something concrete plans. We got together once again. We have this vision of what creative society in Rwanda could look like, but it was good to have people from so many different stakeholders. The embassy has been very supportive, even outside this project. Making sure that they attend events that different creatives put on, and people from the university. Arthur Joash from the head of the creative department at KISS, the creative design department. So it was great to have so many different stakeholders interacting and coming up with a concrete plan saying, okay, this is what we're going to do, and this is how we're going to drive our industry forward.
Now, Teddy, I want to talk about Afripedia for a minute. I mean, this is a platform that's only geared towards musicians, because here in Rwanda, here's what happens. We've had certain artists who are starting to sell their music, their songs, through mobile, through digital ways. Now, that wasn't always the case here. It was mostly, you buy a CD here, you go to a store, but they're starting to catch up with the digital world. Will that be a platform where they can actually sell their stuff? Because, like it or not, the creative world needs to be founded, and they need to understand how this whole thing works. What are you doing about that?
Well, first of all, Afripedia is much more than only music. We're looking into fashion, into art, into all kinds of fields. But when it comes at the end of the story, we want people to get paid. So if we can find a distribution form for music, great. If we can find that there are talented people who need also to sell their services, that's the place that we want to build.
Now, Maria, when we're talking about the creative world, what have you seen here that has really caught your eye? I mean, we're talking about multiple different companies, multiple different entrepreneurs who have different aspirations. What are you seeing that really has you wanting to do more as a country that's trying to invest in that sector here in Rwanda?
Well, it's my 4th year here in Kigali, and I have to say it's fascinating to be in a place which develops so quickly. So I think already from these years it's a difference in Kigali. I think for me, firstly, it was the art I discovered. There are several good art galleries or art centers, and then from there maybe into fashion, to music, and also now more photography. You have all kind, you have communication agencies telling their stories. So I see that it's really broadening. On the other hand, I think that Rwanda as a country has put lots of emphasis as culture, as a value, as a unifying source for the country, which is obviously very important, but maybe have not really yet seen the potential for the economy. And we know in Sweden also, of course, that culture has lots of dimensions and values, but it also could be part of creating job, export earnings, etc. And I think there is also an opening for the government here to look at that. And I was very encouraged by the participation also from the government in the event, and also to see that a lot of things are happening. We see plans of a new national plan for creative industries, etc., etc. So hopefully this event also could be a little bit of input to the work that's ongoing here, and could assist in that.
There's more and more a global feeling to the world. It's gotten smaller and smaller with the internet and all these things. My introduction to your country was through tennis.
Oh, yes.
Stefan Edberg and
Yeah.
Mats Wilander, and I'm getting there. I'm getting there.
Yeah, we should maybe look at sports exchange also at some point. That's true.
Absolutely. Well, guys, thank you so much for being part of the show. We appreciate that, and hopefully there'll be more workshops like the one we had last week. It was amazing.
Okay. Thank you for having us.
All right.
All right, you're watching this review edition of Rise and Shine Rwanda. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Rise and Shine Rwanda, the review. Now, there were some big business stories in the news this week. Christian Ituze from Aquila.net here to let us know what to look out for on their website. Let's take a look back.
And joining us tonight in studio, of course, is Christian Ituze from Aquila.net here to let us know what to look out for on their website this week. Welcome, Christian.
Thank you.
You're pumped up for this week? You ready?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, very ready.
Now, I understand you have, of course, you're going to start off with giving us, some job opportunities that are out there that you look out for. What do you have for us this week?
Yeah, this week it's a little bit different because I have a job for experienced people, not for just graduates.
Yeah, you're giving up on the beginners.
Yeah, no, I'm not giving up. Yeah. Maybe next week I'll be coming with a little bit more. But for this week, we have this organization. It's called Girl Effect, and it's a pretty big organization that operates in London. It has its headquarters in London, and they operate in Nigeria, Ethiopia, and Rwanda for now. Now they are in Rwanda, and they are the one who are into Ninyampinga, who introduced Ninyampinga, and they are looking for a communications manager. Yeah.
So basically someone to spread the word about their work.
Yeah, to spread the word about the work and deliver powerful stories about the real change for girls, because they are into to breaking the cycle of poverty for girls. They are improving lives of a lot of girls all around these countries they are operating in, and they are looking forward to reach 250 million girls. Out of living in poverty, they are making a really huge change. So they really need someone who knows what he or she is doing. And so the communications manager will be in charge of spreading the word, and he must be good in creating campaigns that influence a lot of people, a lot of girls to join. And he will also need to be there to brand Ninyampinga around in Rwanda. Ninyampinga is already known.
It's become a big deal. Yes, they're doing some great work.
Yeah. So what I was saying is not just a job for someone who's starting, because it needs at least 6 years of experience. Yeah. So, and you also need to be to have a high profile on communication and PR role. So probably you need to have a LinkedIn, which is pretty rough.
Yes.
And you also need you also need a lot of skills in writing and speaking English. So you really need to be someone who's fluent in both of these. So as long as you got those, you've got the highest gig.
What I love about this job is the fact that it's life-changing, because you get to become part of a movement, basically, something that, if you move up country and see all these little girls who want to be in school, but instead they have to do chores every day and don't have the opportunity to go to school, it's really heartbreaking. So by getting this job, you're definitely joining a move that you'll be super proud of. Now, I understand next week you don't just have one story coming out, but two coming out that we should look out for. And this one has to be my favorite. It's about, I don't actually play a lot of video games, but this one I just might play. Tell us about it.
You don't play video games?
I don't.
But perhaps games on your phone?
On my phone, yes.
Yeah. So I think this one, for developers out there in Rwanda who are just developing websites or other little programs or mobile apps, they need to read this, because this is a good one. Nairobi, people in Kenya have done a really huge improvement. This Nairobi guy, Andrew Kagia, has just developed a video game. Not just a
typical normal video game.
It's a 3D video game. Yeah, and this is something we know from people around in Sony, those guys who do something like Pro Evolution Soccer, those big games, they are in 3D, something you can play and you can see things literally.
Becomes like real life, basically.
Yeah, in 3 dimensions. So this guy has really, raised the bar higher for Africans and brought something new, something which is expensive, but it requires a lot of brains Yeah, it requires a lot when it comes to developing a huge video game like this. So this is something big, something people, developers, especially in Rwanda, should read and feel motivated. Even in Africa, we can do it.
Yeah, especially since our IT section of the economy is doing so well.
Yeah.
I feel like we have so many people who are doing software development, who are designing websites, that kind of stuff. But we need to take it to the next level. So something like this definitely put us in a whole new league.
Yeah. And the biggest barrier or challenge every developer meets, it's all about people telling him, you're not going to profit.
You're not
going
to make it.
You're not going to make it because you start from scratch. Yeah, you have something random, something nobody else understands. So as long as you don't stick around and put out all of your energy, you'll get nothing. So this guy has made it. People have discouraged him a lot of time. He says it in the story, but after all, he showed that it's possible.
He's the one who's going to be bringing the big money at the end of the day, and they'll be looking at him and saying, we should have told you differently.
Sure. So I think people need to read this.
Now, what else do you have coming up for us next week?
All of us have done some interviews for job interviews.
And where you've done them and you feel terrible, like what did I just do in that interview?
Yeah.
I know what's worse is before you get into the interview, you've rehearsed the whole interview in your head, you've prepared what to say, and then they ask you this one thing that sets you off and completely disorganizes you.
Yeah, my first question when they said, how much should we give you?
You're like,
I was
wow.
like, should I say a lot of money? Then they'll be like,
this guy, like, he's too much.
Yeah, he's too much and probably don't know how to do what he's said to do. And a lot of people get stuck when they describe a situation into which you successfully persuaded someone to support your point of view.
Yeah. And now I think the tricky part with that is you don't want to seem like you're bragging at the same time, because it's very important that you don't think you're just someone who's really proud, who just wants to show off all the time. You have to make them see the good that you did, as opposed to just focusing on how you did it and what style you did it in. So I understand you have a trick that can help people make sure that whenever you ask that question, you can answer that question perfectly. That will earn you the job at the end of the day.
Yeah. All these kind of jobs we're always talking about. Yeah, this is something that can help you out to get them up. So there's this method which is studied by most of those guys in economics who knows what they're doing, and it's called the STAR. Basically, it's star.
The star.
Yeah, star, like any star in the air. So this STAR method, it stands for situation, task, action, and result. And it's all about when they ask you a question like that, explain what you did and how you overcame it. You just think of the situation and evaluate what you did. No, it doesn't have to be job related, because sometimes it's your first
just a
interview.
real life situation.
Yeah. You just evaluate your situation, what you undertook, and the action you took, and the result, and you just tell them, talk about them freely, and well, it end up great. But that's not all, because I'm not the writer who wrote this. But all you need to do is log into Aquila, find a lot about this, and find all of those questions.
For sure.
Examples.
There's
of
even
questions.
prep questions that you guys have on the website.
Yeah.
For sure. Thank you, Christian, for coming to the show once again. Look forward to having you again next week.
Yeah.
And remember, you can find all this on www.aquila.net. For sure.
You're watching Rise and Shine Rwanda, the weekly review show on to sport. We had renowned sports analyst Usher Kumugisha delve into the major sports stories. Let's take a look back. And joining me in studio now is someone who's become family to the show, Usher Kumugisha. Welcome to the show once again. You should become part of the show already. You're like, part of the decor at this point.
Thank you very much.
We love having you here. All right, so let's start with our Amavubi Stars, our national team. They're headed to Morocco for training camp right after this weekend's Azam Premier League bout. But now, what's to expect from the Libya games, from the Burkina Faso friendly game, and moving forward, the Sekafa tournament that will be taking place in Addis Ababa, and then the Chan that we're hosting come January?
Well, I think it's very important really to have regular training camps, with the national team, because while the other countries that will play at Chan are going through the qualification process, it's very important for Rwanda to actually go and play, friendly games. They had planned to go to Scotland in the summer actually and play against Aberdeen and Celtic.
I wonder whose idea that was.
Of course, it was a partnership
right.
between the Ministry of Sports, the Olympic Committee, and East Lothian, which hosted Rwanda during the Commonwealth Games in Glasgow last year.
Right.
So when that didn't work out, of course they had to work out something else. So this 10-day camp in Morocco, outside Kigali, away from family and friends, they will have that focus that they need, to prepare for this tournament. This is a very big tournament, and it will be very important for Rwanda to do well at home in front of their fans. So the friendly against Burkina Faso will be for Chan specifically, and that should give the players, something like a different challenge. We saw against Ethiopia they did well. They won 3-1 heading into the Ghana game. Of course, you know what happened against Ghana.
Right.
Just something small in the 87th minute. But we saw that the goal that Amavubi conceded against Gabon was exactly the same goal that was conceded.
So do we have a
Ghana.
problem with set pieces?
No, not really. It was just something small that they need to work on, and I think they have the quality to do that.
Right.
That first half against Gabon, they were really mediocre, and they know that as players, but their second half was very outstanding. It was good. It's just that they were very unlucky. They had a goal disallowed. They had another that hit the post, so it's just something that they can pick up from. So I think against Burkina Faso, Amavubi will do well. They will they will have had maybe because they get to Casablanca on Monday and play on Friday, so that's good time to prepare for that game. And I think now with some new faces in the squad like Rodrigue Mrengezi, he's done well with AS Kigali squad, 4 goals, a hat-trick in there last weekend.
The first hat-trick of the season.
Yeah, sure. And also another player from Police, Hegman.
Right.
Yeah, he's done well with Police. He's been doing well, so he should bring another aspect to the Amavubi Chan squad. So I think that they'll do well. Really.
Okay. Now moving on, before we talk about what the English teams did in the UEFA Champions League, I know we're all excited to talk about that. Let's first talk about this Jack Warner case, where he's been now banned for life when it comes to anything related to football. What do you think is happening? Because he's been in the FIFA's crosshairs for a minute now. Is this, the bigwigs letting him, loose, knowing they're going to be called on at some point too? What's happening?
I think it's about time really that action should be taken against FIFA officials. And if you look at the case details really, and they're looking back at 1991, that's way back really, that's about what
25 years.
Yeah, 24
right.
years ago. So
right.
It's really absurd that this has been going on and nothing has been done by the FIFA Ethics Committee, but maybe finally something is going to be done. So it should be like a warning to everyone else, who is involved. We know that there's been things like a lot of corruption, for example, going into like the decision to get the hosts, the issue about Russia and Qatar, and also to know that the selling of TV rights, these things, tickets, you see Jerome Valcke also, being sent away. So it's a bit weird, but it had to be, it had to be done. Something
and we're
like
hearing
that had to
about
be
Michel
done.
Platini too,
Yeah.
who may have to face certain things coming up in the next days, right?
Yeah, so he's denying the claims, the allegations,
right.
and whatever. But it's really about time that everything came up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, absolutely. Now let's move on to match day 2 of the UEFA Champions League. Chelsea, Arsenal. I mean, we can go on and on. What's happening with English football, especially on the European scene?
Well, for me, really, I think that when you look at Arsenal and Chelsea, they have the quality to perform well, especially in the group stages. But for me, it's really tactical decisions that let them down. If you look at, for example, Wenger, why on earth would he not start Peter Cech? He is the best goalkeeper at Arsenal. Why would he start Ospina ahead of Peter Cech in a game that they should be winning at home in front of their own fans?
Must-win game, right?
Yeah. So I mean, when you look at the mistake that Ospina made, really, I think that's like the worst own goal we've ever seen ever. You
Right.
know, it's ridiculous. From where he was standing, it seemed like he didn't know where the ball was coming from. Where I don't know.
He wasn't ready. Basically.
He wasn't ready. You
Right.
know. Then somehow, of course, maybe you want to think whether to blame Mourinho or not for the underperformance of his players. I'm sure he's very frustrated and he's thinking, how can we possibly play like this, during the season? So that's why he decided to drop some of the players. But then again, he's going back to Porto. You would think that he wants to make a statement. Why would you let John Terry sit on the bench, Hazard? These are players who can add a lot of quality,
and who can change the course of the game.
Yeah,
right?
who can change the course. Then I don't really understand why Ivanovic is still playing. Like, he's made so many mistakes this season, and
Right.
I think that it's about time that he trusts Baba Rahman, the Ghanaian player
Right.
who actually played against Amavubi.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think he has the quality to do something. We saw that in, I think, the Capital One Cup game that they played. So I think he needs to give him an opportunity. But then again, I think that really it came down to tactical decisions by the coaches, and that's what failed them.
All right, now let's move on to basketball. Derrick Rose, it seems the man cannot catch a break. I mean, every morning you wake up, it's a new headline. There was some sex scandal allegations that came out not too long ago, and now he has to face another injury. We felt like, last year was, his good luck charm, that he was back to being himself. And that this year, he was going to perform with a new head coach, with the team being basically intact. You felt like they could have made some noise in the Eastern Conference, and now we hear about this. What's your take on it?
Well, I mean, actually, I was awake when the news, came up. I think it was about 1 a.m. or something.
Right.
And, I could not believe it. It's very devastating, even just for him as a player. I know you come and then the first day of practice, seriously, you get an injury and then
Right.
you have to undergo surgery. But I think that it's not very, very bad. I think he'll come back sometime, during the season, maybe in November, maybe. I hope when he comes back, he can try to pick up and that, his knee does not also give way. But also the problem with that sort of injury, to the face is that he will start playing like he's fearing. People,
Right.
Should not.
It's like you favor one leg when it's been injured
when it's been
before.
injured,
Right,
yeah.
right.
So now, I mean, basketball is a contact game. So here you are going up for a layup, and you're fearing that maybe someone is going up, to get the rebound or to block you.
So you might want to just shoot from outside. That's not a good thing.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I read an article actually right before coming to work from Sam Smith, a columnist at the Chicago Tribune, and he's talking about how they hope he could be back for the main day, the beginning of the season, so he could skip the entire preseason and come back for the first game of the regular season. Hopefully that's true, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we hope so, really. And actually, that's what all the media outlets are saying, that maybe he'll be available on October 27th. So hopefully for the Chicago Bulls fans that, he comes back, because he's really going to play a huge part in their, if they have tight aspirations,
any chance of winning.
chance of winning. And also for him to get back to the player that we saw,
The explosiveness of Derrick Rose was something.
Yeah, I know. Even, I mean, during the 2011-2012 season, like, to see that kind of player. Like, I think everyone around, you know, the basketball
We hadn't seen anything like it since Iverson, basically.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
You know.
So everyone is really excited to see him play, to see the person that they thought he would become, you know.
Right.
So we just hope that, you know, he will recover from such an injury. It's
And
really
let's cross
devastating.
fingers for Kobe Bryant, who's coming back from injury as well. Well, Asha Komugisha, thank you so much. We appreciate it a lot.
Thank you very much.
All right, we'll be right back after the break. Now, this had to be one of my favorite reports this week, which was last week's music and graffiti. Just this past weekend, in an event sponsored by Coke Zero, music and graffiti were brought together to give us a night to remember. Let's take a look back.
Soft drink lovers have for a while now found it hard to enjoy one of their favorite drinks, famously known as Coke Zero. The drink that could previously only be found in plastic bottles and at a relatively higher price was relaunched in Rwanda this past weekend in a move to meet the growing demand of this drink, mostly from people who would like to enjoy their soft drinks with a little less sugar. The event saw the likes of graffiti artist Wise 2 from Nairobi, Kenya, entertain the crowd with some of his masterpieces, as well as various DJs who kept the music on point all day long. So what's new with Coke Zero? Well, 1, it's now in a glass bottle, and 2, you can get it for only 300 Rwandan francs. Clearly, our worries for calories are going to be a thing of the past. Now remember, it's possible to enjoy your favorite drink, look and feel best at the same time. Come with Fidelis, Rise and Shine Rwanda.
All right, Fidelis, now the repackaging, it's great news always, but why repackaging?
Well, for the longest time, people like myself who love Coke Zero have had to only purchase it mostly in supermarkets because it was really hard to find in your local boutique or kiosk in the quartier. So they're trying to address the need of people who necessarily can't afford to go to supermarkets and buy it. So 1, it was always in plastic bottles, and 2, it was slightly more expensive to buy as compared to the normal Coke that you'd find for 300 francs in the normal boutiques. So basically they decided to repackage it, remove it from plastic bottles to glass bottles, 1, and 2, to now bring it down to 300 Rwandan francs. So basically everyone can enjoy it. It's no longer just a thing for people who only can afford a particular amount of money to afford sodas. So it's going to be for everybody.
Now, why do people should go for Coke Zero? I mean, what's different between Coke Zero and other sort of, soft drinks, starting with the regular Coca-Cola?
Well, the reason it's called Coke Zero is because it has 0 sugar. So it has a lot less sugar than all the other soft drinks have. So basically, most people who normally take people, let's say diabetic people, or people on diets and that kind of stuff, because it also has less calories, because less sugar means less calories really. So that's the main point. So it's something that people should adopt into their life. I mean, everyone is trying to live a healthy lifestyle lately, or me, you, everybody really. People are waking up or going to gyms, but there's still some things that they're doing wrong, like always having soft drinks that have lots of sugar, juice, all these things. So maybe they can supplement them with a Coke Zero, because it's a healthier option basically. Yeah.
All right. Well, that's great. That's great. Now, have you tasted it yourself?
I have. I love it. I told you I used to buy it before at the supermarket, but hey, it doesn't hurt that now I'll be getting it for like 300 francs. Good deal for me. I love it. I love the idea.
Right. Well,
also, the other good thing is, by the way, when it was launched, there's something really huge that happened. Is they had graffiti artist Wise2 from Nairobi, very famous for his graffiti work. So while people were enjoying sampling of the Coke Zero, they could see some of his work pieces. There was really good music for having a good time, as you saw in the video. But the other thing is, you see that's roundabout close to Kazuka Mazi, so the way from Lycée de Kigali. There's that roundabout up there.
Right.
So they're going to have a mural up specifically, that's being brought to you by Coke Zero. So good thing to look out for.
You know what? As long as it's
Arts
fancy
in
and it's
Kigali.
cool, I'm all for it. I
For
like
sure.
that. Well, great report, Fidelis.
Thank you.
Now, don't forget, we love to hear your thoughts, comments, and feedback on what we're talking about here on Rise and Shine Rwanda. Tweet us at Rise and Shine RW. Like us on Facebook and send us your ideas for programs. Check out our Rise and Shine Rwanda YouTube page, where you can catch all the shows and the reports we do daily. Find us on Instagram, Rise and Shine RW. We'd love to see your pictures. Or check out our Rise and Shine Rwanda website. That's www.riseandshinerwanda.rw. Well, that's all the time we have for today. We'd love to hear your feedback, so do let us know if you have an idea for the program. You've been watching Rise and Shine Rwanda with me, Regis Isheja. We'll be here same time, same place on Monday, so do join us then. But for now, from the whole team here at Rise and Shine Rwanda, have yourself a good day and an even better weekend. Bye-bye.